From Slash shredding solos in Mumbai to Coldplay slaying it in Ahmedabad, India is grooving to a new business, and it's potentially huge. India's live entertainment or concert economy has been having its mic drop moment for a while now. But in the last 1 year, it's been pumped up by a flurry of global artists. Who am I talking about? Guns N' Roses, Travis Scott, Imagine Dragons, Green Day, Shawn Mendes, Bryan Adams, Deep Purple, Dua Lipa, and Martin Garrix. Many of you have heard them live at an amphitheater, perhaps just a couple of hours' drive from where you live. According to an industry report, this economy is projected to hit 23,000 crore. That's nearly $2.8 billion by 2030. That's an annual growth of 25%. That's 6,500 ticketed events and counting. That's 25 million Indians who attended a live entertainment event in 2023, which is a 2.6x increase from 2019. And live music accounts for 70% of the segment. Now, to be sure, the concert wave is a global phenomenon, but India could be headlining it soon. So, who's gaining? Cities, streaming platforms, sponsors, big and small smart brands, hotels, and everyone from Uber drivers to local vendors. So, from luxury VIP boxes to desi mosh pits, live shows are rewriting how India consumes entertainment and how businesses monetize it. So, could we have our own homegrown live nations and our own Coachella soon? Listen on. It's Tuesday, the 20th of May. I'm your host Anirban Chowdhury, and this is the Morning Brief. My first guest is Raghav Anand, partner media at EY-Parthenon. I asked Raghav, what is behind the concert economy boom?
First, if you look at the demographics, the middle class going from 450 million to 750 million. But if you really take the affluent class or the upper middle class, that's almost 100 million people. Now, these 100 million people have disposable income. So that is definitely driving spends on media entertainment, on live concerts and sports and so on and so forth. The second important thing is that with the penetration of digital, people have got exposure to global music, global content, and so on and so forth. So artists across the spectrum, there is a fan following, and that's why you're seeing a lot of global artists come to India. The third thing which is happening is that previously it used to be very difficult to sell tickets to an audience beyond 5,000-6,000 people. But today with digital platforms, you could sell tickets to about 100,000 plus people. So the scale of those events have definitely gone up. And lastly, but most importantly, you see that from the leadership of the country, there is a clear indication of supporting such large-scale events. So the Prime Minister himself has spoken about both the creator economy and the concert economy. And various ministries and municipalities are supporting this drive, along with the emergence of large venues. So when you put all these four together, it makes it a very good mixture. And I would believe this economy will grow more than 19% in the coming years.
Right. And Raghav, why are so many global artists coming to India?
So I think there are three factors that need to come together for global artists to look at India. The first, obviously, is their fan base and their willingness and affordability of the tickets to come to the concert. Second is the commercial mix, whether sponsorship, everything plays together for it to be commercially successful. Third is the quality of productions. International artists will not compromise on the quality of productions. So if these three things come together, it becomes favorable. Today, there are quality companies both on the music space, on the digital platform, and production space who produce the event at very high quality. Like I said, the affluent population is there who can afford the tickets. And along with it, the entire exposure to the global content means that there is a fan base who are eagerly waiting for these artists to come. So that's why it is becoming viable. And that with the infrastructure support, it is the right place for these big artists to come and perform.
Right. Understood. Understood. So, see, in your global report, you said that the Coldplay concert gave Ahmedabad rupees 640 crore of allied business. Would you talk to me a little bit about the kind of ecosystem this is spawning, which entails tourism, hospitality, and also transport?
So, first of all, if I look at statistics in each of these, just look at tourism. 86% of the concert attendees were traveling from outside Ahmedabad. And that resulted in almost 138,000 air travels coming into Ahmedabad during those 3 days of this concert window. And 36% of those guys went around looking at other local attractions of Ahmedabad. So tourism clearly got a big boost.
Right.
And all of these guys need to stay. So if you look at hospitality, there was a 2.7 times surge between 23rd and 28th January. All right. And if you look at room tariffs, that went 3 to 5x up. So clearly that had a ripple effect on hospitality. And as far as transport is concerned, those 4 5 days recorded almost close to 4 lakh plus passengers operated in more than 800 trips. 38% of the attendees were doing local shopping, averaging to close to about 2,300 rupees from that point of view. So there is clearly ripple effect on tourism, on hospitality, on transport, on retail, which is why we believe that concerts like this have a multiplier effect on the local economy.
Right. The other side of this ecosystem is brands that are riding the concert wave, like Mintra, like Agio. But going with the fact that we've seen a huge democratization and decentralization of brands in the last 1 or 2 years, especially among Gen Zs, there is no brand loyalty when it comes to most things, especially apparel, etc. So, can concerts be huge platforms for these, like D2C brands, etc., as well?
Now, that's a very sharp, very brilliant observation, Anirban. You are absolutely right. For Gen Z, the brand loyalty is slightly different. They look at brands based on the experience that it generates, whether it be digital, physical, or otherwise. So, hence, live events such as this becomes extremely important for brands to connect with Gen Z, because if they are able to enable a differential experience, then Gen Z would look to be loyal to them. And if they can make it 360-degree with concerns on the environment, with the way the whole experience is conducted, then it becomes very attractive to Gen Z. So what are the brands doing? Specifically, first things, they are activating on ground and also digital. So there are phygital experience by which you get a strap on band and you start shopping around the entire concert and so on and so forth. There is a lot of backstage to app content, so that they are not just leveraging the connect of the fans with Coldplay or the artist, but they are also entering that space and seen as being positively contributing, which rubs off on the brand image. And there are also partnerships they are doing and curated pop-ups. So all of this means they're delivering an experience with a very clear understanding that a good experience will is what the Gen Z is counting on.
Raghav, let's talk about problems. And, ticketing is clearly one. We've had problems of surge pricing and black marketing of tickets during the Coldplay concert. 2.5 million people logged in for the Coldplay concert, and we saw what happened. Do you think our digital infrastructure is not strong enough to handle the massive traffic that these events could generate?
Right. Anirban, I think we should all be very complimentary and also surprised that in a market like India, for the first time, within a few minutes, you could have 2.5 million people coming in, logging in, and selling tickets. That is any artist's dream.
Absolutely.
The fact that it was possible is great. We have seen, when I've traveled across the globe, people are very pleasantly surprised that a band like Coldplay could come in and get the largest concert audience in a stadium in the 21st century, which is almost 110,000 people in a show. And they were very surprised. How could you even sell those tickets? How could you accommodate that? At the same time, like you said, the demand was 2.5 million, which means there are going to be a lot more of people who are going to be not getting those tickets and hence could be disappointed. Now, there are questions with respect to should we be doing surge pricing at that point in time? Are there more equitable ways of distributing the tickets so that the real fans get access? Are there ways to sort of curb remarketing of those tickets? I think these are definitely things that are being worked on. That plus the other thing, which is the entire policy on the live concert, where it becomes a single window clearance. There are clear norms of permissions and permits. You don't have to go to 200 places to get a permit. And the collaboration between the two bodies make this absolutely a more smoother experience. And I would say we would see more 100,000 plus concert in the coming years.
And finally, Raghav, how fast do you see this phenomenon spreading to the rest of India, especially the tier 2 and tier 3 cities? So, the report that I've been alluding to, which is EY and BookMyShow's report, gave an interesting statistic that 35% of attendees to those concerts came from non metro cities. How do you see this trend growing?
So again, I think if you look at the top 10, 12 cities, that is already beginning to happen. Pune with the Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj Stadium, sports complex. The Hyderabad had concerts, Diljit and everybody performing in Hyderabad. So already in the first 10, 12 cities, this expansion is already happening. And it has been clearly proven that these cities can fill up the entire stadiums. The second part which is happening is for every 100,000 Coldplay concerts, there are concerts with 10,000, 15,000 people happening with local artists, which might not have the same limelight as Coldplay, but these are definitely happening in the smaller metros. And you also saw that IPL traveling across this place along with entertainment and sports, even in smallest places like Dharmshala and others, though the venues are being filled up, which means there is an audience which can spend anywhere between 500 rupees to 5,000 rupees for live event experiences. And that is that with sports infrastructure, live event infrastructure, I think the spread to the second tier cities are definitely starting to happen. Yes, what is needed is more closer coordination and a policy with local governing bodies supporting that. If that happens, I think the Ahmedabad template can be replicated across multiple locations.
Now, the concert boom has made an e commerce player like BookMyShow pivot into the live event space. Here's its Chief Business Officer, Naman Pugalia.
We look at this as a natural evolution of a journey that really began for us with U2's Joshua Tree Tour. Not many people know this, but they ended the Joshua Tree Tour with us in Mumbai. In the same year, in 2019, then there was, of course, the pandemic pause, and we've bounced back fairly strongly after that. We did Coldplay's 5 shows in India, more than 370,000 fans attended that. Same month, actually, in Jan, we had Cigarettes After Sex. In March, we had Lollapalooza India 3.0. We did Martin Garrix's stadium show. So, strategy for us is a constant work in progress. We're, of course, committed to bringing the best of live from across the world to India and equally to letting Indian talent flourish both in India and outside of it.
Okay, Naman, let's talk about the business. Now, I understand that this has a low gestation period and the ROIs can be huge. But the trick is in gauging demand. How do you do that? For example, how do you know which artist the audience wants to listen to live?
So, on the first one, like you rightly suggested, 40% of concert attendees are coming from non metros or tier 2, tier 3 cities. That is extremely encouraging for the company and, of course, for the industry. In fact, in addition to Coldplay, it's worth looking at Ed Sheeran's recent tour. So, beyond Delhi and Bangalore, he went to Pune and Hyderabad and Chennai and Shillong, markets which accepted the show in great numbers. We, of course, spend a lot of time understanding these preferences both through data as well as through anecdotal evidence, which is exactly what goes into determining which artist goes where. Because to be in sync with the burgeoning population as well as interests in this country, you've got to have your ear to the ground at all times. Some of these are, of course, adventurous calls, most are calculated risks.
Naman, let's talk about a challenge which, Book My Show is kind of part of. There have been massive ticketing issues when when we've seen these. Sorry. Naman, let's talk about a problem which Book My Show is actually part of, which is massive ticketing issues, right? We've seen that during the Coldplay concert, and this is your core, it's e commerce. Um, how are you upgrading or ensuring upgrades to make sure that this doesn't happen in the future?
We are constantly upgrading our own technology. There is an automated randomized queuing system that our website uses and our app uses. We put users in a queue and then randomly assign chances for them to purchase tickets. We are constantly getting better at monitoring any kind of bot activity that's happening to scalp these tickets. So I think this is, it's a constantly evolving whack-a-mole thing that happens. Book My Show is committed to ensuring that our consumers get the very best chance of securing tickets for artists that they are interested in. As far as secondary markets go, unfortunately, that's beyond companies. It's even beyond regulatory authorities because that's an economic phenomena that will take place whenever there is a mismatch in demand and supply.
Understood. Now, another problem is the fact that a lot of these concerts are very badly organized, in terms of space primarily, but it also in terms of, security and air conditioning. I mean, what happened with KK is fresh in everyone's memory. We've had incidents in AR Rahman concerts. We've had artists, not musical artists, but artists like Trevor Noah, being very critical of the management and space problems in India. Now that you are in the production side of it too, how are you ensuring that things improve?
Sure, Anirban. Look, as far as Book My Show is concerned, we spend a lot of time thinking about health, safety, and security as far as our shows go. Broadly on infrastructure, we've invested a huge amount of money over the last few years. We own India's only Vortec all black steel stage, which is the one that we use for all our leading festivals as well as for headline tours. We've also invested in Mojo barricading of our own, which is built to EU specifications. We work with security agencies, both national and international, who have tremendous experience in organizing such events. When it comes to sustainability, crowd safety, and operational excellence, we hold ourselves to global standards. And in fact, in many cases, we are localizing and Indianizing the norms to ensure that we deal with our realities.
So, would you say space crunch is an issue?
Well, I mean, space crunch is perhaps not the phraseology I would use. I think there is a paucity of venues in this nation as far as large shows are concerned. Now, when I say paucity of venues, we've got to look at it in two ways. One, can we repurpose existing venues that we have? So, there are facilities in the nation that can accommodate more than 50,000 people, but they were built with sports in mind.
Exactly.
So, we need to repurpose them and we need to ensure that multi-purpose usage of these facilities can be enabled. In fact, when we did the Coldplay shows in Ahmedabad, Anirban, we used the best possible turf protectors and drivables to ensure that the field of play is protected, because obviously for a stadium it is sacrosanct.
So, just to interrupt here, would preparing them for the right kind of acoustics, etc., retrofitting stuff, would that be possible, and would it be obviously much less expensive than setting up a new venue?
Absolutely. I think we can repurpose existing venues. In fact, the world over, this has happened. We work very closely with companies like OVG, Live Nation, AEG to understand how they repurpose existing spaces for live entertainment broadly and for live music specifically. The other thing, Anirban, is that there is a lot of encouragement now from several states who have expressed deep interest in building music first arenas. So I believe in the
Wonderful.
next few years, you're going to see a lot of work that companies like ours are going to put in joint ventures with governments and with experts across the world, be it architects, be it planners, be it concessionaires, to build music first venues.
Which are the state governments?
Not at the liberty, Anirban, to currently disclose the names of the states, but the good news is that, the
Usual
states
suspects.
span the entire nation. Well, I think some of these states are going to be surprised by, simply
Hmm.
because they've looked at what happened with Coldplay. Some of them have looked at what happened with Ed Sheeran, and they truly believe that the economic multiplier from these shows and from the live entertainment economy more generally is significant.
That's right. And I believe a region like the Northeast, for instance, deserves a lot more, many more concerts featuring these global artists.
In fact, the Northeast has 50 million of India's most musically inclined people. There are 7 states who have a deep interest in several genres. Some of the most interesting IPs in music that have been built in India have their roots in the Northeast. In fact, the
Absolutely.
state governments across all these states recognize this. And I think they also recognize that, today the average ticket price in the Northeast cannot compare with the average ticket price in a Mumbai or a Bangalore or a Delhi for that matter. So I think they're looking at ways in which to help us subsidize bringing the entertainment economy to that region, because I believe that that region has been starved for very long of high quality entertainment despite having the most passionate fans, which is, of course, an irony that all of us seek to address. And I believe that with participation from state governments as well as from brand partners who increasingly understand the value of catering to that region, we should be able to work out a functional model that is actually scalable across that entire region.
Finally, Naman, the point that I started with, Book My Show has made a clear pivot to live events in a very big way. How do you plan to take this forward? Do we see BMS, becoming sort of India's live nation?
That's an interesting point you make, Anirban. We've, as a company, spent the last few years learning the ropes of the live event business, live entertainment business, and we continue to be very open to lessons that we can learn from across the world and from players in this industry who've spent decades to get to the point where they are. Having said that, our aspiration is simple, which is to be the Book My Show of India. And when I say that, as you've already spelt out quite succinctly, we started out as a ticketing platform and then got into promotion. Today, if you look at all of the genres that we operate in, whether these are international festivals, international touring, electronic music, Indian music, theatricals, exhibitions, sports IPs, we'd like to expand the canvas that we draw on. That's going to be a perpetual endeavor for our company. And we really want to ensure that this has been built ground up with a lot of attention to detail, and equally importantly, to nurture homegrown talent and to export it to the rest of the world.
So the stage is set, the beats are getting louder. As global artists queue up their tour dates and Indian audiences upgrade from playlists to passes, the ripple effects are undeniable. And as startups and state governments tune in, more and more of India can take center stage in its concert economy moment. That's it for today. You were listening to this episode on The Morning Brief. It was produced by me and Rajas Naik, sound designed by Amrit Reddy. A new episode of The Morning Brief drops every Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday on a listening platform of your choice. Stay tuned. External clips used in this episode belong to their respective owners. Credits are mentioned in the description.